And that's why I always say, don't compare yourself to a lot of the people that are, putting on a show for you. And vulnerability is the superpower. I think that's the empowering legacy we can create.
Yeah, you saw what happened with Liver King, and that was just like, wow.
That was very interesting. I think we all knew what was going on there. Why not just be real and honest? Yeah. You want to be on anabolics, so what? There shouldn't be judgment. If someone wants to do that, go do it. That's my whole thing.
All right, guys. Chervin here today. Thanks for coming on. We've been trying to make this happen for a while now.
I mean, probably 2 years of DMing each other on Instascam.
Good old IG DMs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be here, meeting your crew here, doing this in La La Land, Southern California.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's do it, baby. Yeah, you gave me water advice a year ago, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I was drinking plastic water bottles at the time.
I mean, microplastics are invading every single part of our bodies today. We're breathing it in. We're eating it. It's in our pores. It's in our organs. What the hell are we going to do about this?
Yeah.
We got to figure it out.
It's in babies now.
Yeah, of course. Because, it's interesting. I just got back from Tulum and I was walking on the beaches there, and the whole beach was covered in microplastics.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a plastic, ultimately, it's a petroleum product that breaks down into these microbeads. Those microbeads they get into every industry. Damn. It was so intense seeing that. And it just reminds me of like where we're at today and where the disconnect is with policies, with industrialization, all those things. And we got to wake up.
That's a shame, because the beach is supposed to be some of the best grounding.
Yeah.
But now you're just standing on plastic.
You're standing on plastic. You're breathing it in. It's everywhere. And what it does, people might not understand what plastics do in the body, is that we have a current in our body. It's electrical system. We're electrical before we're chemical. So if you're embedded with plastic, microplastics, it's in your arteries, it's in your bloodstream, it's embedded in your tissue. You're talking about disconnection of electric voltage, our mitochondria. And that disconnection is where we go into immunosenescence. Senescence is when cells go senile, and all of a sudden when they stop working, they become cancerous. You have other problems. They call it autoimmune conditions, things like that. So the plastic problem is a real problem. It's not only impacting human health, but it's also impacting our environment, nature, animals, all the things. So we got to figure that out. This is getting ridiculous.
Yeah, because the disease rates are skyrocketing. I never even connected that to plastics.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one big part of the entire, landscape of issues we're dealing with. I mean, we're breathing crazy stuff in, we're eating crazy stuff. Our emotional intelligence is all over the place. We're losing the idea of being present. Eating food, for example, used to be a ritual. Every time we go into our excursions or our retreats down in Peru or Mexico or Europe, wherever we're going, when we eat, we realize that's such a time to break bread and be present. Now we're doing 10 million things while eating just to get it in.
Yeah.
And that's such it's such a disturbance to our emotional, physical response and the way our body breaks down food, assimilates the food, knows what to do with the energy of the food, and then ultimately removes the waste products. And because we're just so caught up in 10 million things, we're losing the sacredness of that. And so it's quasi-spiritual, but it's also a physiological problem that we're dealing with today.
Wow, I'm definitely guilty of that. I'll throw up a podcast while I'm eating.
Yeah.
So you'd recommend just to be in the moment, just eat the food?
Yeah, look, we live in crazy lives right now. I mean, there's so much stuff going on. We're bombarded with so much information. A lot of us are doing a lot of things right now to set us up for long-term realities in this crazy, debt slave world that we're in. But the more you can stay in your body, especially around things like eating food and relationships and other things, the more you're going to be present and you're going to remember those things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why, as people get older, they say time starts to fly faster and faster and faster. I think you've heard that cliche before, right?
Yeah.
And so, why is that? It's because they're not present. They're getting less and less present, and they're not in the moment. They're just thinking of things in the future, what's happening this weekend, what's happening with such and such birthday, holidays, holy days, whatever it is. They just get out of that whole thing. And that's part of being stuck on the Gregorian calendar system, January to December, Monday through Sunday, all these weekdays, weekends, all the word magic. I can go on and on. It's insanity. So what we can do is not be in fear of everything, but just start to recalibrate how we approach our lives every day. And that's being really present when you wake up and really honoring it. And before going to bed too, do a reconciliation of your day. That's an ancient Rosicrucian practice that I've been practicing for about a decade, where I'm really looking at my entire day. I'm reverse engineering the entire steps. It's like remapping. And you're creating like almost like a
Shout out to today's sponsor, Specialized Recruiting Group. When your company has a position to fill, are you really seeing the best candidates? Sure, you get plenty of resumes, but you may be missing an untapped resource. Ideal candidates who are not currently job searching. People who are not actively looking, but who may be open to the right opportunity. It could be the difference between a good hire and a great hire. Specialized Recruiting Group is ready to find the talent you need. Go to srgpros.com, see how our recruitment specialists with a deep understanding of experience and expertise you need can find the right fit for your business. After all, you deserve to see the best candidates possible, both active and passive. Whether you're looking for a contract or a direct hire, Specialized Recruiting Group is ready to find the talent you need. So go to srgpros.com right now to get started. That's srgpros.com. Specialized Recruiting Group, a tailored approach to hiring.
Grade for the day to experience like, oh, this happened with this person. How did it make me feel? What part of the day made me feel excited? What part of the day made me feel like I wanted to escape? When did I get aggravated? Carl Jung does a lot of philosophy on how we perceive others and how it irritates us, and how the irritation is really not about the other person. It's about our coping mechanism, our program, how we receive information and data points, and the traumas that we hold. If we're just running half-cocked around 24/7, have no, conditional appetite to look introspectively at ourselves, we're really missing the boat on a true opportunity to grow. And so a lot of people do Vipassanas, or they go to ashrams, or they go to retreats, or they go to the jungles and do psychedelics and drink ayahuasca, whatever they're doing. They're having those short aha moments where they're being called forward. Well, I think the daily practice will trump all those. And it's just a matter of really like choosing you and choosing self-love.
I love that. I've never even thought of that, because I do the gratitude journal in the morning, but I never do anything at night.
I mean, well, that's a start. The fact that you're really honoring yourself by showing your soul what you're thankful for every rise. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Gratitude is such a powerful concept. It's so much more than just the lexicon of the word gratitude. Like, what does it truly mean? And I always ask people, what does gratitude actually mean to you? So I'm asking you, what does gratitude mean to you?
I just really embrace what I've worked for, I guess. And I'm thankful for everything that's in my life.
Right. Like what you've had to overcome.
Yeah.
The lessons you've learned.
I even write the bad things that have happened to me. I'm grateful for that,
And how do we define bad things?
Right.
I think everything has got medicine to it. On the way here, I haven't strained my back. I can't remember the last time, 2-3 years maybe. And this rise, I'm sleeping in a hotel room. I'm not in my bed. I got up, I was on calls nonstop. Then I reached down, all of a sudden I felt like a stimuli or a jolt in my back, and all of a sudden my back stiffened up, and I'm like, holy shit, did I just strain my back? And then I get in my car and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I did strain my back. And I was just thinking, instead of like going into victim and like, oh, what the hell? I was just thinking like, okay, what is this showing me? Slow down, take a deep breath. It's all for you. It's all for you to see. And we're going to deal with a lot of painstaking experiences in this life. It's just part of the process. Without light, there's no darkness. Without darkness, there's no light. It's just really how we adapt to it. It's kind of like our immune system.
Right.
It's why we take, adaptogens and drink Shilajit and, drink adaptogenic mushrooms and do all the things, is because it's allowing our immunological function to be able to bob and weave with what life brings you. It's the same thing with our psyche.
Yeah, Shilajit has helped with I struggled with low testosterone.
Yeah.
So I started taking that and a few other things.
Yeah, there's some interesting case studies on how Shilajit can amplify or balance or create a homeostasis in the body with hormones, hormone production, hormone recycling, all those things, which is really important for today. I mean, as we talked about plastics, that's just one part of it, but we're really getting nuked when it comes to, our hormones being all over the place. And that's mainly because of the toxicity of our world. If people's, thyroid is embedded with lead, cadmium, aluminum, God knows what else, glyphosate, herbicide, fungicide, larvicides, insecticides. I can go all the suicides and go all there. Your body doesn't recognize it. And because of the lack of mineralization, primarily magnesium, in my opinion, we're going to be at a place where the body just doesn't recognize friend from foe. And all of a sudden it's just, you're basically, you're going into internal civil wars nonstop.
Yeah.
And that starts to bring out emotional problems.
Yep.
I really believe that it's a bold statement, and it could be a catchphrase that's not understood properly, but I believe all disease begins in the mind. I believe disease literally is manufactured in the mind because it's a lack of doing, lack of knowing, lack of choosing. And what you're not choosing, you're asking for it. You know what I mean? So if you know that you should probably drink cleaner water, you should probably have a shower filter in your water. If you live in a metropolitan city, you should probably get at least 15, 20,000 steps a day. You shouldn't be sedentary sitting in front of a couch. You shouldn't get polluted with light technology. I'm talking about a blue wave, nonstop artificial light. All of these things, I think our internal gnosis knows this. It's just a matter, are we not choosing ourselves, or we're just going to continue down the path and say, I'll fix these tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I'll just escape with something that, allows me to not think about it. We got to wake up, because it's not only for the individual health, it's just for the sovereignty of humanity. I'm fighting the good fight because I desire a healthy world. I desire mankind, humanity, all species to be at the highest level of health. When we're in the highest level of health, it's hard to manipulate us.
Yeah.
But if we're struggling with how we're going to pay the rent. We're struggling with our energy levels. We're hooked on prescription drugs. We're eating to cope with mechanisms. We're confused on how even the body works, what the liver does, what the gallbladder does, how the immune system works. We're really running around with, a confused mindset. And that's a problem.
Absolutely. Would you say that's your life purpose?
It's part of it. I think just ever expanding into the levels of truth and going deep into the depthness. It's something about the shadow that has always attracted me. And I like to cross that veil energetically.
Wow.
And I think your gift lays in the shadow.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I was the opposite. I was scared of the dark growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I found out my house was haunted later, so that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think perceived shadow could be anything. It could be darkness. It could be your connection with death. It could be your connection with a certain side of your appetite for, chaos. Right. And through chaos, a lot of things are reformed and rebuilt. I mean, it's kind of how nature works, right? A great flood, a great fire, all of those things. They reposition the soil, they reposition the environment. It's the same thing, I think, emotionally, why we got to sometimes hit those peak moments and put ourselves to the test. The act of hormesis, right? That which does not kill you makes you stronger. And so what are we doing every day, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, to put ourselves in a position where we have to pull from our deep loins to be able to go past this? How do we fight that and allow ourselves to rebuild from that fight?
Right.
The whole thing is we should have peaks and moments of this. We shouldn't be sat in a stagnated, dysregulated state. That's how inflammation works, for example. If you're dysregulated, you have low-grade inflammation that's running all the time. Well, low-grade inflammation causes a breakdown, oxidative stress, metabolic syndrome, all of these things. And then ultimately, you're now in a disease span. You've moved from a health span to a disease span, whereas you have controlled inflammatory responses. You sat in a cold plunge for 6 minutes. You activated heat shock proteins in 170-degree sauna. You're sprinting, 3 times a week, which is causing your body to go into a fight flight, and it's acting like you're running away from a lion. Those are things that activate the body that say, hey, this body needs to stay alive. You know what I mean? So it's really not that complicated when you think about it. If you're sitting around on a couch all day long, there's no inspiration for your body to say that there's a point of existing. You get that common sense there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we can track that, understanding sirtuins and how genomes work and how the immune system responds.
I could relate to that. I was a PC gamer for a few years, and my health was the worst it's ever been. Even though I was a young teenager and young 20s, but I was walking like 2,000 steps a day, so it was just terrible. She's
just like staring in front of a screen playing video games?
I would get sick like once a week.
Yeah.
Like a cold or whatever. My immune system was so weak. It was like everyone during the pandemic when they stayed inside for 3 years and then they went out and got sick immediately.
I mean, just think how crazy that is. That is literally the opposite of the fundamental way that Mother Nature, God, whatever created us. We're supposed to be exposed to the elements. We're supposed to rise with sunlight hitting our eyes, the photoreceptors, the activation of cholesterol in our skin to hormone D production, which activates 3,000 genes associated with longevity. From there, calcium and magnesium and all these nutrients form our bones. They form our response to so many things. So imagine you're not getting any of that activation. You're living in an artificial box, artificial light, artificial temperature controlled. You're getting hit with non-native electromagnetic frequencies. Your eyes are bringing in weird nanometers of artificial light. All of a sudden, you just become like a toxic soup.
Yeah.
And then you're not moving, right? So you're sedentary. You're made of water, electricity, voltage, minerals from the earth. We're literally made of the earth. And that sedentary lifestyle is a real problem. It's just there's nothing worse than that. Just think of like a pond that is not moving. There's no oxygen that's pumping through that pond. What happens in about 36 hours? An algae bloom, toxic. Now that water becomes poison. It's the same thing with the human body.
So that happens inside of us.
Absolutely.
Dang, I never thought of it that way, but that's a good analogy.
Bacteria infections, candida, fungus, mold, parasites. I can go on and on.
Wow.
They all play their part to perfection to create that toxicity. And then everyone's wondering like why they have chronic fatigue syndrome, which is the most ridiculous diagnosis of all time.
And the autoimmune disease, you see that a lot.
It's intense, because it's really just a matter of the body forgetting what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And you can trade that all of the physiological things are all emotional things too. They all correspond with each other. Mm-hmm. And so, we're in interesting times. I see there's a health revolution right now. A lot of people are waking up. There's a lot of good people. You've had a lot of people on this show, a lot of friends of mine that are fighting the good fight, that, you can see their values are coming from raw truth. They're not on platforms just because they want affirmation or they want followers or they're not chasing clout. I have a big problem with that.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about that. A big part of my platform is, doing things the right way, doing it legitimate, staying authentic. I have my, perspective on social media. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. I think it's dangerous for a certain demographic of people that don't have a strong footing in who they are and why they are. I think without purpose, social media can really distort your mental, emotional situation. And if you have strong convictions, you've built your moral platform, and you have an idea of what your purpose is here, why you've incarnated here, then social media could be a great tool to connect with people and to teach and to learn, because the greatest students are the best teachers, right? And it's so much deeper than just me sitting here and intellectualizing different ideas and concepts. It's actually about the embodiment, right? And so I prefer the embodiment versus the intellectual, and I always try to find a balance between intellectualizing these thoughts and then actually behaving and participating in these things. And they should definitely merge.
Oh, they have to. Yeah. Authenticity is important to me. Having done 1,200 episodes now, I can tell pretty quickly with the guest.
Absolutely.
They're being authentic.
I'm sure. And so it's probably split right down the middle on, who you're talking with. You can read it from their aura, from their energy.
Very quick.
Yeah.
And it's been a crazy evolution for me. I was atheist when I started the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And now?
Now I would say I'm spiritual. I don't tie myself to any organized religion.
Yep.
So I don't know what to label that, but yeah, I definitely believe in something,
I believe that too. That's awesome. Yeah. And that's part of your evolution. Like you creating, this show was part of your journey here in this life. There's something that happened. I think it's some kind of karma or whatever. And it's allowed you to be connected with people that have brought forth many perspectives through their life experiences.
Yeah.
And whether, whether we're reincarnating over and over or whatever it is, I'm not sure. I don't think any of us know. There's something to say about who you cross paths with.
I don't think it's a coincidence.
It can't be.
It can't be.
Yeah.
Like I'll literally be thinking of someone and run into them, or they'll call me or something.
Totally. And the more that you're in alignment with your journey, you'll see that your synchronicities become hyper. And when you're in hyper synchronistic flow, all of a sudden, it's like you're the master magician of your reality.
Wow.
And it's a real beautiful experience to have that level of direction and that level of path where, the freedom that comes with that. It's almost, there's nothing like it. There's no glory outside of it. And my spiritual teacher is Dr. Rudolf Steiner. I'm an anthroposophist, which is the wisdom of man, understanding what all this experience is. Dr. Rudolf Steiner created Waldorf education and biodynamic farming, but even more importantly, he created a cosmology based on his clairvoyance of what humanity is dealing with right now, the polarization of spirituality and materialism, and ultimately the Christ in the middle, which is the balance of both ethereal and material. And through the Steiner wisdom and my connection to God and my connection to my purpose and family and all that, I really start to understand what freedom truly means. And there is a philosophy around that. And it's really investigating, like, what is controlling my thoughts? Why do certain people have motives for certain actions? Are they really what their desire is, or is it something outside of them that has infiltrated them and they're just running in a program? And I'll notice that if I'm feeling really compulsive and reactory and I'm angry, like, is that really me, or is that just me being unconscious at that time? And the beauty of what Steiner brought to the world was really contemplation, to really contemplate your life. We talked about it just a segment ago about reviewing and analyzing your day.
Yeah.
And so there's ways to really build a courageous wisdom within and really technically get to a higher level of freedom than we can ever imagine.
Yeah. And yeah, when I was atheist, I would question purpose of life. I didn't know my meaning at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are a lot of younger guys I see struggle to find their purpose.
I don't blame them. I mean, we're in interesting times. It's perceived value and perceived fame and perceived, the whole money train is really become like the God source, right?
Yeah.
And that is that's corrupting the minds and hearts of men and women.
That's how I used to think for probably until I was 24. Money was the number one priority.
Yep. And you're not wrong for thinking that, because that's what's been instilled in society, maybe through parents, maybe through lineage. Money is currency. Currency is energy. It's a current, right? And it moves through you and it waves through you, and the struggle is real. And just look at LA today. Look at the disparaging of poverty to rich. It's insanity. So for me, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to build wealth and being responsible and being able to build things for yourself and your family. I mean, just think how crazy it is today. Just to drink clean water, you need abundant resources. Something so simple as water that everyone should have access to and have right to. But if you want clean spring water that's not filled with microplastics and other weird stuff, you need abundance. Sometimes even $5-6 for a liter of water. It's insanity.
You're thinking about buying your own spring.
Totally.
That's where we're at right now.
That's where we're at. It's that level, right? Just water. And so we shouldn't feel poverty conscious or scarcity around money and be afraid of it. But I would ask people, and I always ask people, what's your why? What's your reason? And how do you want to create abundance? And what is it for? Abundance should be a side effect of doing what you love to do. So you find what you love, what you're passionate about. It could be anything. And because you're in your dharma, what you chose to do, what brings you the most joy, the side effect is you're going to be rewarded with resources, however this world deems what resources are.
Right.
It's the same thing with, people that are chasing, a physique. If your mind is all on the aesthetic, you're going to be chasing that your whole life, and it's going to be a struggle. But if your desire is to feel good, to be healthy, to be in your body, to reach peak potential mind, body, and soul, the side effect of that is a great physical body. And so I always ask people, what's your intention behind everything? And you can cross-collateralize that with everything in life, relationships, your studies, your fundamental truths. I was asking Robert, why are you going this deep? He's like, I just want to know what the potential is of being here. And that's why, he's so investigated in his, alchemy and sacred geometry and his polymath. I ask the same thing with my business partner, Shahab. I ask him all the time, why do you want to be the best entrepreneur, the best CEO? He's like, I want to create the legacy of what you could possibly do from nothing to everything. I want that to be stirred for echoes. I want my children to remember these things. And so it's intentionality. It's everything. We talked about it with eating food.
Yep.
What's your intention around eating food? Why do I pray to most of the food I eat? So I'm creating almost a sacred experience every single time. Everything is sacred.
Wow.
And it changes your whole reality, and it creates such presence.
Yeah, I'm looking into like energy within food and how the type of meat you eat is actually really important.
Most of the meat that I get is, coming from a rural farm that's field kill, where the animal has lived the best life, pastured life, and then, they don't know that they're getting slaughtered. So they're not going into the slaughterhouse and adrenalizing and fear and all that stuff, because that's passed on to the meat. You can feel that. If I eat regular Angus steak or prime steak or whatever it's called, I feel that versus, an animal that's lived in pure bliss and harmony and had no idea that the energy is real. It's passed on. We're so beyond just the way that the modern media portrays us to be. We're dynamic beings. We have so many senses beyond just the common five senses. We all feel butterflies. We all feel emotional responses. We know energies. People, the law of attraction is real. I come across people, even in public, that are so attracted to me energetically, they can't get away from me and they just want to be around me. And then there's some people that can't even stand next to me, right? Because the DNA field of resonance, our toroidal field, our frequency, has a specific resonance, and attraction is real. And there is something to be said on who you bring around you and the people that you're around.
I could definitely agree with that.
Yeah. You're the sum of the 5 people you're closest around. That's for sure. And the whole thing on social media is like, make sure the people around you are supportive. They're not hating on you. They want to see your greatest outcome. Absolutely. But also look in the mirror and ask yourself, how are you supporting the people around you? Because it has to come from internal. It can't be from pointing out. Of course, if you know that you're around chaotic people and parasitic people and vampiric people, and most of the time it's unconscious because most people's cups are not even a fifth full.
Yeah.
So they just have to siphon from you, right? Of course, it's time to press the eject button. But also ask yourself, how did you get there? How did you even allow that? Where is that coming from?
Right.
Where was the lack? And most of the time it's childhood. Most of the time it's, how you were carried in the womb and how, the family dynamic, those prime ages when your brain's in theta, right? Where you're picking up all the nuances around you. And so we now know, the biology of belief is real. This is the true epigenetics. Your surroundings, your environment, those are the ones that pull the triggers on loaded guns.
Wow.
Your gene expression, and that goes deep into, short-term and long-term health, from methylation, from, a lot of the weird exotic diseases, things of that nature.
Yeah. I have the MTHFR gene break.
Which variants do you have? Do you know?
I have the yellow one. I don't have both.
You don't have both?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you're not properly methylating because of specific enzymes not working, then ahead of time that there could be some mental, emotional, and physical ailments that come with that. And so then what do you need to do that? You need to declutter your life, which is number one, before even taking methylated compounds. You can't have clutter around. Clutter is very troublesome for people that can't methylate.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah, because it makes sense. Because if your methylation is impaired, that means there's more clutter going on in your body, right? It's a mental, emotional, physiological thing. We got to get out of this like allopathic way of thinking. We got to think deeper. And then from there, then you get on your trimethylglycine, your methylcobalamin, your glutathione, NAC, all those things are going to help your body properly methylate.
Yeah. I'm on the glutathione. I need to look into the other ones.
Yeah. Symbiotica is the best glutathione
That's the one I buy
on earth, hands
Amazon.
down. Not even close.
It's a lot. I'm not going to lie, but it's probably worth it.
Yeah. No, it's just one of those things that's a staple for so many reasons. And we have some other compounds in there, and it's in liposomal form. So it's intact. It's not exposed to oxidation. Most glutathiones on the market, they smell like rotten eggs because they've already sulfurated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we've done a very good job. And it's probably in my top 2 or 3 products of all time.
I love it. It tastes great too. Yeah, you guys have crushed it. And I'm just super weary of the supplement industry
as you should be.
Because there's some really concerning studies lately on the heavy metals in them.
Yeah.
So that's just like, wow. Because as a consumer, you just see it on the shelf and you trust it, right? FDA labels on it.
Part of the birth of Symbotic, I remember, was when I was considering going down this route. And I've been in the health field my whole life. You know, my cousin started the raw food movement in the early 2000s. He brought all the superfoods to North America, David Wolf. And so I was a little kid when he was doing this, and I was learning so much. And from there, I started understanding more about the pharmaceutical industry and how pharmaceutical industry has a fiduciary obligation to turn a profit every quarter. And I was just confused on how would that make sense. We're talking about, helping people. There seems to be a conflict of interest. If you have to turn a profit, that means you're going to do anything and everything. And then as I got older, I started to understand that, pharmaceuticals was all about symptomology. How do we treat the symptom, not go into the systematic health? And then from there, jumped into the supplement space and natural healing space and all that stuff. And so Symbotica was birthed on setting the standard and trailblazing that experience. We wanted to create something that goes directly to the most educated people in the alternative health community that are already web sleuths and scientists on their own, and they understand the formats of how these things work, how to read labels, how to understand sourcing, understanding how products potentiate each other. And that's really what separates Symbotica from what I think everything out there is that we've done everything. We've reverse engineered how it works. The supplement space, I remember the CBD industry, it was like everyone in every industry racing to it because they saw profits, and it became a race to the bottom in quality, and there was no intention around it. It takes, me and my group 2.5 years to create a product.
Wow.
Because that's how much thought and intention goes behind it. These are ideological creations that ultimately have to come to existence. And it takes us traveling the world, sourcing raw materials, working with farmers and extractors, and really setting up long-term relationships so we know we can bring it to scale to the world.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing right now. And we have the best team on earth, and everybody's all in. And that's the reason why we've organically grown without jumping in with all these investment groups, and we've really had control of how we position ourselves. And it's a testament to the entire Symbotic organization.
Yeah, that's respect, man. A lot of supplements will just go to China, go to India, get it as cheap as possible.
Yeah, no, we don't play that game.
Yeah,
we have the lowest margins in the industry by far, not even close. Our goal was to create the highest volume of clients and put them on a platform where they're going to be able to receive them and their families. That's all that mattered. And we were banking on our growth, and it's working out.
Love it.
Yeah. Because if you're trying to marginalize, a few products and have these high margins, within 2 months, the customer is going to know this is bull, and they're going to go somewhere else. I think, and I'm paraphrasing this, I think we have the longest tenured subscribers to our products than any other supplement brand in the world right now.
Wow.
Meaning they're staying on the longest. And we're over a year right now. Just think about that. Well, if you subscribe to Symbotica, you're staying on for more than a year.
That's impressive.
What does that say? It says that they're having a unique experience. It's working out for them. They trust the brand. And we're just getting started. Wait till you see what's coming.
Let's go. You've traveled the world. I want to hear about some of your trips. You went to Egypt with Robert?
I did, yeah. He took me there for my birthday, December 9th, last December. And I'd never been to Egypt before. And I've always had visions. I've spent a lot of time in monolithic places in Peru, but I've never been to Egypt. And I'm Persian. I've never been to the Middle East. And so this was my first time being in the Middle East, which that just evokes so much energy and past life stuff and family lineage stuff. And so he, as we were landing in Egypt on my birthday, December 9th, we land around 7 p.m. He's like, hey, when we get back to the hotel, which is by the Great Pyramid, the Mina house, he says, don't go to sleep. And I'm like, why? He said, just don't go to sleep. I'm like, okay. So we check in. It's about an hour drive from the airport. And as we're driving into the hotel, I can see the tips of the pyramid. And I felt like I was in a movie. It was such a trip. And so I check into the hotel. About an hour later, he comes in. He comes knocking on the door. He's got some security with him. He's like, "You ready?" And I kind of had an idea what was going to happen. So he basically set it up where me and him were going to stay in the Great Pyramid by ourselves the entire night.
Whoa.
And that's when the journey began.
Holy crap.
And we had quite the experience in there. We were I was literally in the Great Pyramid for about 9 hours, in the King's Chamber. And I literally went in the sarcophagus, slept in the sarcophagus for 2 hours and experienced so many revelations and so many hypersynchronicities. And me and him our communication was moving from, regular voice communication to telepathy. We were like psychically connecting, and we were toning in there, a lot of chanting. There's a whole ritual around like chanting and singing, just how powerful that is for the human body. We're acoustic machines, if you think about it. And your vagus nerve, which is the longest cranial nerve in our body, which controls and regulates our immune system, our digestive system, our GI tract, is all regulated through vibration and cymatics. That's why toning and humming and gargling water on the rise creates a calmness to your nervous system. And so I'm sitting here in the Great Pyramid in the King's Chamber, and for an hour straight, we're just toning and chanting. And I'm like seeing all these kinds of things, and I'm just having a natural organic response, which felt psychedelic, but it had nothing to do with substance.
Wow.
And then from there, we crawled down the subterranean and went like 200 feet under this, in the hole. Literally, you cannot move. Like if you're claustrophobic, good luck. And I'm quasi claustrophobic, but I was already all in. We're crawling down this hole into the pit, and we're literally in this like crystal chamber, pitch dark, can't see anything, can't move your body. He's laid up right next to me, and we're just humming for 2 hours. And my mind's like, wait a second, it's my birthday. I'm under the heaviest known structure in the world, and I'm under the Great Pyramid of Giza. And I was just having that kind of revelation in that moment. And there's a video on my Instagram, I have it pinned on the top, where he's filming me as I'm coming out of the Great Pyramid, that rise. And he's interviewing me, so to speak. It's like a 1-minute interview, and you could tell I'm like on another world. I have no shirt on. I'm just tripping like in the best way ever. Yeah, that was a very unique experience. I've had amazing experiences in my life. I got to spend time in Peru. I did almost half a year there, and just disintegrated everything that I thought I was.
Dang.
I had a near-death experience in 2015. And I ended up selling my previous company and going to our farm in the Hawaii Islands. And then from there, I ended up going to Peru. And I stayed in Urubamba, which is a sacred valley, and went through a lot of the ritual magic of the Shipibo and learned about all the different, activities that go on in Peru, which really expanded me and brought me back to my child. And then from there came back and went through a very life pivotal moment, walking my father through the gates of life and death, and went through, my dark night of the soul. And it was during that dark night of the soul that the inspiration for Symbiotica was created. It was like total pain into purpose. And it got me through some of the worst of it, just knowing that I'm truly locked into my purpose, as opposed to, other things that were occupying my time.
Wow.
And to pair up with my childhood brother, who reached out to me because he wanted to make a difference in the world and wanted to be remembered by his family and create legacy by helping people. It's just been a dream come true, and it's been trials and tribulations, blood, sweat, and tears. I think there's a projection in the world that, I'm living in an ashram all day long, and I'm getting deep tissue massaged by empresses, and I'm sitting in my cold plunge and infrared saunas, eating the best foods, drinking spring water all day. And that's not the case. I'm putting 10, 12 hours in every day on really working my butt off, trying to keep the pace and not let Symbiotica slip in any way, shape, or form, and making sure that we're producing and creating the best alchemy on earth.
Right.
And that's part of my legacy, and I'm here for it.
What a journey, man. I love that. That's the thing with social media, though. It's just a highlight reel, so people will see it and think that's your life.
Totally. Yeah. And they project that this is it. And for better, for worse. And that's why I always say, don't compare yourself to a lot of the people that are, putting on a show for you and showing you this is their high life. Most of those people have, chronic illnesses or autoimmune problems, mental, emotional problems. And that's probably why they're projecting all this.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is the superpower. And if we can be vulnerable, not too vulnerable, but vulnerable enough where we're so real, I think that's the empowering legacy we can create.
Yeah. You saw what happened with Liver King, and that was just like, wow.
That was very interesting. I think we all knew what was going on there from day one, but why not just be real and honest?
Yeah.
You want to be on anabolics, so what?
Yeah. I think if he just said that, it would have actually helped.
I know that would have helped. You know what I mean? Because there shouldn't be judgment.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck? If someone wants to do that, go do it. That's my whole thing. Just don't front and be something that you're not and screw with people's minds and confuse them, because a lot of people are receiving information, and because of our short attention span and our inability to discern, which is a fundamental lacking of today, which I think is the root of all issues, you create confusion. Just be real. And if someone has a problem with it, so what? That's just judgment.
Yeah, I think part of that reason for the discern stuff and critical thinking is they punish it.
Yeah.
So that's why people haven't really activated it.
Yeah.
I
agree. There's been a massive suppression to discernment. And I think it starts with our school systems and how we're raising kids. A child at 7 years old, 8 years old should not be in a classroom at 7:30 under fluorescent bulbs, sitting there learning regurgitated nonsense from uninspired teachers. That child should be climbing trees, having direct observation with nature, planting a garden, understanding the value of topsoil and what food alchemy means, and putting work in creating that. That's how you build empathy with a child, is they know that this is hard work to get these things. Today, I mean, not only are we not planting gardens, but we're not even going out and getting our food anymore. What are we doing? We're going like this. And it's showing up to the door. Just think how crazy that is. The fundamentals of what humans are supposed to be alchemizing with their soul, growing food, moving things, labor, hard work. We're not even doing any of that stuff. And we're bypassing that. It's kind of like the whole dopamine thing, right? We're getting hit with so much dopamine, but we're not doing the dopaminergic process, which builds up the dopamine. We're just going straight to the dopamine. So we're bypassing that. What happens to the human body in terms of hormone production, regulatory systems, bioactive systems, immune systems, by skipping that, you're challenging your own authority, and now you've become a slave to something that's not you.
Right. And that's the thing with porn addiction, right? Dopamine, just whenever you want it.
Gone. It's just your whole process of buildup is disappeared.
Yeah.
And what does that do to the soul? It creates so many downfalls and so many aspects of forgetting who they are. And that cascades into depression. And then once you're in a depressive state, you're reaching for things that aren't good for you.
Yeah.
Because you have to escape. That's why, escapism is so big. And that's why the society and social media and all the things that are happening, all the entertainment, right? Just think about how big, I know this is entertainment to a certain degree, but at least this is bringing value. Entertainment has taken over the world. Just look at sports, look at movies, look at TV, look at all this stuff, entertainment.
Video games.
Video games. What is, it's entertainment as a form of escapism. If we're all being entertained and chasing entertainment, what the hell are we doing to create a better world?
Good point.
And because of AI and this technocratic system, it's going at a faster pace than any of us could even believe. And I believe AI and all this technological advancement is a Trojan horse.
Really?
Legit Trojan horse, because it's feeding you this thing where you're going to be more protected, you're going to be more secure, it's going to make life easier, when in fact, it's disabling us at the psychic phenomenon level, at our immune level. All the levels are getting completely hijacked and taken over, where we're not creating any more agency anymore. We don't have any more authority anymore. And the faculties that made us who we are getting obliterated. How many people can memorize things now? How many people know directional and geographics and understand where they're positioned? All that, all those things are important. We just forgot about it because now we're picking up our phone and just doing these things now, and it's just telling us where to go. That lack of sensibility, common sense, is a problem. And we're getting into generation lost, where every generation you're losing more and more and more of it. Steiner actually predicted 100 years ago that in around 2020, in the 21st century, we're going to enter a phase called the Armanic impulse. Arman is the entity of materialism. It's the consciousness that there's no soul in this body. Your religion is science. Your religion is government. Your religion is materialism and computer systems. You're just an algorithm. And he said right at that time is the highest that humanity is going to face that. And then we'll have 20 years from now. So just think about it, from now to 2040. If humanity does not snap out of this trajectory that we're in, this impulse, we're going to enter an age called the eighth sphere. And the eighth sphere is a complete dystopian world where we've forgotten what we've forgotten. We have no connection to God. We have no connection to our elders, our ancestors, the indigenous cultures, soil, all of the stuff that makes us human. The, herbology, all that stuff is just going to be gone with the wind, and it's just technocratic. And you can see that in the movies they're making.
Wow.
You've heard the whole thing that, they made this in the movie 50 years ago and it's happened now.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I mean, all this post-apocalyptic world, Wall-E, what I mean? All these things where,
Mad Max,
it's just those post-apocalyptic world, and Terminator 2, all the hyper materialism is embedding into our psyche. And materialism isn't fancy cars and homes and clothes. Materialism is a way of thinking. It's an algorithmic way of thinking. Like Steiner's whole thing was, it's interesting. The human embodiment and development has stepped away from working into developing conscious efforts. Instead, it's all about how to make money.
Yeah.
How to survive. That's a problem. Can you imagine we didn't have this debt slave system where we weren't having to think at age 14 what our careers are going to be so we can pay the rent? Instead, it's where is our highest expression going to be found?
Whether it's civilizations thought that way, right?
That's right. And that's how they were able to build these civilizations.
Right.
At some point, something came and corrupted it. So these are the things that we like to talk about and think about. We're in interesting times, and it's an amazing time to be alive.
It is. So you're not going to get Elon's new robot?
No. That's not on the plan.
Yeah. He's got that and the Neuralink. He's making a lot of waves in AI.
There's I have my perspective on that. I probably won't get into on this conversation, but we have to stand up for humanity. We're at a pivotal moment.
Where are you going to next, man? And where can people find you and some Biotica and everything?
I am going to Iceland.
Nice.
I'm going to go to Iceland, which is a very close and dear culture of mine. The Scandinavian culture, that Viking culture, I have a lot of respect for. We talked about hormesis, that which does not kill you makes you stronger. Just the amount of force that, that humanity, that society has had to endure to survive there. It just shows you, why there's such a strong culture, because it hasn't been easy. And I respect that. I'm going to Iceland because we have located, in my opinion, the cleanest sea salt in the world. And if you know me, I'm a big salt guy. It's the electric current. It's beyond electrolytes. It's the medium of communication. And a lot of the sea salts in the world right now are filled with microplastics, along with heavy metals, of course. And I think we found the cleanest sea salt in the world, and we want to bring it to Symbotica. And so I'm going to go over there and investigate that and experience hot springs and cold springs and do all the things. Run around naked in the tundra, and also chase the northern lights, the Aurora Borealis. which is a very interesting phenomenon. And I want to go experience that.
Sounds like a fun trip. We'll link Symbiotica below in your socials. Thanks for coming on, man.
Till next time, brother. Keep doing what you're doing.
See you guys.